So vCSA management UI is where you can manage your vCenter server. So here, we'll say HTTPS and your vCenter server appliance or host name and colon 5480. This is the port that you can access the vCenter server management UI. So we'll say advanced and accept the risk and continue. Now we should log in to our vCenter server with a root credential and the password. So here is the summary page. As you can see, your vCenter host name, the type of vCenter server and product and the version and the build number. And here is the CPU and domain, host name, and the status is running. Great. And here is the storage and swap, which is all good. So we'll go to monitor. Here we can monitor the CPU, disks, network, and the database. That's great. So we have the access here. You can do edit to enable SSH or disable SSH, or actually enable or disable DCLI, which is direct CLI console to the vCSA, which I do not recommend that you actually disable this option. And we have enable console CLI and enable bash shell timeout here. So we'll leave them all enabled. By default, SSH is disabled, but we enable it when we installing vCSA lesson. So here we have networking. We can edit the setting here or we'll hit next, and here we can change the host name, actually the DNS server and the IP address. And of course here we have IPv4 configuration. You can change the IP address here if you like, the subnet mask and the default gateway. That's great. And again here we have the username and password if you want to actually change the setting here. Lastly, you should type your vCenter server credentials. So we'll say cancel, and here is the firewall. Again, I do not recommend you actually using, I should say, vCSA itself firewall. You should have your network firewall, something like FortiGate, Juniper, or Cisco ASA, or whatever firewall that you use. It's better than using vCenter server management. If you don't, you should actually be careful. Maybe you will block accessing your vCenter server. If you do something wrong with firewall, you cannot access it anymore. Be careful when you want to use firewall in vCenter server. And here, and again, time zone. ESXi can actually synchronize the time setting with host or NTP, or of course you can disable it. If you have NTP server here, you can type your local NTP server, or of course public NTP server, which is network time protocol, or you can use the host, which is in most cases I'm using my ESXi host actually to sync the time between vCSA and the ESXi host, and I will configure that ESXi to the NTP server. So we'll leave it default, and here's the services. These are the services. As you can see, it's running. You can see the services here, and here we can say update. Actually, it cannot access the URL. Here we can say the setting. You can check for update automatically, or you can use the custom repository, which is another repository that published by a VMware website. So that's okay. And here in administrator, we can change the setting. You can type the old password or current password and type the new password. Here you can change your vCSA password. And of course here you can actually use password expiration setting. So the password validity we can use, for example, for 30 days, or for our lab we say no, because we don't want to actually change the password. But be careful, do not use it in your production environment, and minimum the time here from 90 days to, for example, 15 days, or I don't know, 10 days or a week, or whatever that you like. But this is only acceptable for our lab. Again, I should mention that do not disable password expire on your production environment. And here we can enable syslog here we can configure syslog. When we actually configure our monitoring server for our lab, here is where we can define syslog server to our monitoring server, which I'm going to talk about it later. And here is a great option. Actually, I should say maybe the best option here is going to be backup. Of course, the administration, actually changing the password and the password policy is great here, but this one is much better. Actually, I did some tests to help you how you can configure a vCSA to take backup to your local network. So next time I'm going to use a specific application that makes your computer as a FTP server, and here actually we can take backup, which is only uses FTP, HTTPS, and NFS or SMB or whatever. So next lesson, I'm going to tell you how you can prepare to take backup from your vCenter server.